Picture this: a force so quiet yet so overwhelming that it shapes your thinking, warps your desires, hijacks your goals, and dominates your focus, all without your conscious awareness.
A force that pretends to be pleasure, but silently chains your will. This is a force that has toppled empires, broken brilliant men, and left behind trails of silent, unnoticed ruin. But what if conquering this force isn't just possible? What if it's the single most freeing act a person can perform? Think carefully about this. To master desire is to master the world. This is not a sermon about repression. This is not a lecture demonizing natural impulses. This is about taking back control. It's about peeling back the lies that lust weaves into your mind, your decisions, even your identity. Because lust isn't only about sex. It's the hunger for ownership, for stimulation, for distraction. It feeds on your attention and leaves your spirit starving for something real. What we're about to explore isn't new. These truths have echoed across time, spoken by philosophers, psychologists, and spiritual teachers from every corner of human history. From Plato to Thomas Carlyle, from ancient Stoics to modern thinkers, the warning has remained the same. When desire sits on the throne, reason serves as its slave, and you become its captive. But here's the promise. By the end of this journey, you won't just have understanding. You'll take your first real step toward mastery. And at the very end, there's one final truth waiting. One that could forever change how you see yourself. Think back to the times lust dressed itself up as love, when it sold you happiness, but left you emptier than before. How many times has lust whispered that satisfaction lies just one click away, one more conquest, one more indulgence, only for you to find a deeper hunger waiting? Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, believed much of human behavior is driven by unconscious desires, with sexuality at the center. He warned that suppressing these instincts could create psychological illness. But Carl Jung, Freud's student turned critic, offered another path. He taught that true transformation happens not through repression, but through conscious integration. To face these primal urges, to bring them into awareness, and to use them as fuel for growth. Jung called this the journey of individuation, becoming whole by confronting your shadow and making it part of your conscious self. Lust is one such shadow. Ignored, it controls you. Acknowledged, it can become a source of power, of creativity, even transcendence. Ever wonder why almost every spiritual tradition speaks of celibacy, discipline, or restraint? Not as punishment, but as a doorway to clarity, to personal power. In Hinduism, the concept of brahmacharya encourages the preservation of vital life energy, not to suppress, but to cultivate strength. Christian mystics saw lust as a fog over the soul's vision. Buddhism speaks of craving as the root of all suffering. Across all cultures, one message repeats: there is liberation beyond uncontrolled desire. But conquering lust isn't about fighting it blindly. It's about studying it, understanding where it arises, asking, what pain am I numbing? What void am I trying to fill? Is it truly about pleasure, or is it a mask for fear, loneliness, insecurity? Look close enough and you'll see. Lust often grows from scarcity, not abundance. From longing, not love. Promises connection, but delivers isolation. This is why modern society, saturated with hypersexualized images and instant gratification, creates not freedom, but addiction. Algorithms study your patterns, feed your compulsions, keep you stuck in loops of scrolling, swiping, chasing, but never arriving. This isn't pleasure, it's captivity. Yet most people never pause long enough to ask, what would life feel like if I wasn't controlled by this? So pause now, reflect. What decisions have I made or avoided because of lust? What relationships have I entered, stayed in, or destroyed because of it? How much mental energy have I wasted chasing illusions? These questions are hard, but they are the first crack in the wall of unconsciousness. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote that our power lies in mastering the mind, not external events. The Stoics taught that real freedom comes not from indulging every desire, but from learning how to govern them. And self-mastery starts with awareness. So, what exactly is lust? It's not just biology. It's a psychological habit. It's how you relate to the idea of pleasure, of escape, of fulfillment through something external. Lust tricks you into believing satisfaction waits outside you, always just out of reach. But here's the shift. When you realize nothing external can complete you, you reclaim your power. You stop craving bodies, images, thrills, and start seeking connection, meaning, transcendence. And once you start waking up, the world loses its grip on you, because the world runs on desire. Consumerism fuels it. Advertising exploits it. Social media amplifies it. Lust keeps the machine running and keeps you distracted from what matters most. Your purpose, your peace, your presence. You weren't born to chase shadows. You were born to become light. And if you still think this is just about sex, think again. Lust is a mirror. It shows how we relate to power, status, validation, novelty. It's the constant itch for more, the inability to sit with now, the hunger that never stops. To conquer lust is to reclaim the present moment, to quiet the craving, and tune in to the soul. Imagine, who would you become if you weren't seduced by every passing desire? How much energy would you regain? What clarity would flood your mind? What kind of human could you evolve into? This is the invitation, not to suppress desire, but to transform it, not to run from longing, but to alchemize it. And this is just the beginning. Let it settle. The world will keep dangling shiny distractions in front of you. But once you know what's real, you can't be fooled again. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper. We'll explore how ancient wisdom and modern science converge on one undeniable truth, that overcoming lust doesn't just reduce suffering, it awakens a deeper power inside you, a power most people never touch. So ask yourself, what happens when you stop being a slave to impulse? When fleeting cravings no longer steer your life, you begin to reclaim something most have lost: sovereignty over yourself. Let's go deeper. Modern neuroscience now confirms what sages and mystics knew centuries ago, that repetitive, compulsive behaviors physically rewire the brain. Each time you give in to lust, a feedback loop strengthens. Dopamine surges, rewarding the behavior temporarily. But over time, your baseline satisfaction drops. What used to excite you now feels normal, and you'll need more just to feel the same. This isn't freedom. This is dependency, disguised as desire. Dr. Anna Lemke, a psychiatrist from Stanford, explains this clearly in her book Dopamine Nation. She shows how modern life, saturated with endless stimulation, creates a strange paradox. The more pleasure you chase, the more pain you feel. Why? Because your brain fights to maintain balance. Flood it with dopamine too often, and it numbs your ability to feel joy at all. You become restless, empty, constantly seeking. This is where lust becomes dangerous. Not because desire itself is evil, but because unchecked desire slowly erodes your ability to be present, to be whole, to be free. Now think of your own life. How many times have you reached for something? A screen, a fantasy, a person, not out of joy, but out of discomfort. How often has lust been an escape from boredom, anxiety, silence? Carl Jung said it best: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. Unconscious lust becomes a puppet master. You think you're choosing, but you're reacting. You believe you're in control, but cravings are at the wheel. To overcome lust is to take the wheel back. This isn't a path of shame. It's a path of strength. And it starts by learning how to sit with discomfort, to witness your desire without obeying it. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, taught that between stimulus and response lies a space. And in that space is our power to choose. Lust tries to erase that space, pushes you to react instantly, but awareness brings it back. So next time the craving hits, and it will, try this: Don't move immediately. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, what am I truly longing for? What feeling am I trying to avoid? Is this desire authentic? Or is it a symptom of something deeper? These questions don't kill desire, they refine it, because pure desire is sacred. It drives love, creativity, connection. But lust, unchecked, distorts that energy. It narrows your vision, steals your center, makes you forget your mission. The ancient Greeks called this akrasia, acting against your better judgment through weakness of will. Socrates wrestled with it. Aristotle analyzed it. And they all agreed, the true test of character is how you govern yourself in the face of temptation. Now zoom out from the personal to the societal. Look around. Entire industries profit from your distraction, your cravings. From advertising to entertainment, lust isn't just a private struggle. It's a social business model. The market wants you consuming endlessly, never full, never satisfied. Here's the brutal irony. The more you chase pleasure, the further you drift from peace. Lust sells the illusion of intimacy, but leaves you lonelier. It offers thrills, but denies you depth. It pretends to empower, but only tightens your chains. True power isn't found in indulgence. It's found in discipline. And discipline doesn't mean cold rigidity. It means aligning your life with your higher self. It means protecting your time, your energy, your mission. When your desires align with your values, something powerful happens. You gain clarity. You start acting from purpose, not from impulse. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot command himself will be commanded." Let that sink in. If you can't master your own impulses, something else will. Habits, trends, algorithms, the will of others. But the moment you begin mastering yourself, you become untouchable by shallow forces. This is the way of the sovereign individual, the integrated human, the awakened man or woman who no longer looks outward for wholeness, but cultivates it from within. And this is where the deeper transformation begins. When you stop chasing and start building. When you channel all that restless energy into something with meaning, with depth, with love. Monks, warriors, and sages throughout history understood this. They practiced restraint not out of fear of desire, but because they knew its raw power. They didn't waste it. They harnessed it. Tantric traditions, for example, don't reject desire. They transmute it through breath, awareness, sacred intention. They turn lust into spiritual fuel. In this way, desire becomes a bridge to the divine. So ask yourself, what would happen if I took all the energy I pour into lust and redirected it toward mastery? How much could you create? Learn, heal, build? Imagine the focus, the clarity, the peace. But here's the biggest question. Who would you become if you were no longer driven by hunger? Not just sexual hunger, but emotional, spiritual, existential hunger? Who are you without the craving? That is the deeper work. And in the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to transform desire into fuel for greatness, where ancient alchemy meets modern psychology, and where discipline finally becomes joy. Are you ready to take that next step? What if I told you that the same energy fueling lust, the same restless fire that often pulls you off course, can become the driving force behind your greatness? Not something to fear, not something to suppress, but something to face head-on, master, and transform. Think of it like fire. Uncontrolled, it destroys. But when harnessed, it illuminates, it warms, it powers civilizations. In the ancient art of alchemy, there was a sacred process known as transmutation, the turning of base metals into gold. But on a deeper level, it was a metaphor for inner transformation, taking the raw, untamed parts of ourselves and refining them into purpose, love, and clarity, turning chaos into focused power. This isn't just poetic language. It's a process you'll feel in your body, witness in your thinking, and express through your daily choices. Let's start with your body, that restless energy, the one lust hijacks. is the same life force that fuels your creativity, your drive, your vitality. In Eastern traditions, it's called Kundalini, Chi, or Prana. In modern terms, you could simply call it your life force. This isn't mystical fluff. It's biological, psychological, and deeply spiritual all at once. Think of your attention like a currency. Every time you give in to cheap distractions, whether it's pornography, endless fantasy, or meaningless encounters, you're spending that currency. You're leaking energy. But when you choose to hold that energy, when you allow it to build instead of scatter, something shifts. People start noticing a different glow in you, a different presence. This is what ancient traditions meant by sacred retention. In Taoist practices, for example, sexual energy is not wasted. It's circulated, uplifted, transformed through breathwork and meditation. It's not about saying no to life. It's about saying yes to your higher potential. And here's a truth most people never discover. When you stop pouring your energy into fleeting escapes, you start concentrating it. And concentrated energy becomes raw power, creative power, mental focus, spiritual depth. Why do you think so many of history's greatest artists, inventors, and thinkers spoke about discipline and purity during their most productive seasons? They weren't denying life. They were choosing depth over distraction. Leonardo da Vinci, known for his staggering creativity and concentration, was believed to practice celibacy. Not because he lacked desire, but because he refused to be controlled by it. Nikola Tesla once said he couldn't name many great inventions created by men deeply entangled in romantic distraction. While controversial, his point reveals something deeper. That solitude and self-mastery often open the doors to insight, while lust and emotional entanglement can cloud them. Now, turn the focus back to you. What would your days feel like if you woke without the mental fog of regret? Without compulsive cravings pulling you in 100 directions? What could you build if your mind was clear and your energy aligned? What kind of people would you attract? Not out of emotional hunger, but from a place of inner abundance? Because that's what happens when lust stops controlling you and starts transforming into love. Not romantic love, but love for truth, love for beauty, love for purpose. Let's circle back to Carl Jung. He believed the energy behind desire, what he called the libido, wasn't just about sex. It was the fuel of the entire psyche. And when that energy remains immature, festers, it breeds neurosis, creates inner conflict. But when integrated, it sparks transformation. This is the essence of individuation, gathering every scattered, impulsive, restless part of yourself and bringing them into harmony. Lust, when ignored, breeds shame, secrecy, guilt. But when acknowledged and redirected, it becomes rocket fuel for your personal evolution. Let's be real. This path isn't easy. It demands self-awareness, consistency, and ruthless honesty. But the rewards, they're nothing short of life-changing. Because when you start making decisions from intention instead of impulse, your entire reality begins to reconfigure. You become magnetic, grounded, unshakable. You stop chasing cheap pleasure and start creating lasting meaning. But there's more, so much more. Let's talk about love, real love, in the absence of lust. True connection with another person, not out of possession, not out of projection, but from authentic presence. Lust often masquerades as intimacy, but they're not the same. Lust wants to take. Intimacy wants to understand. Lust devours the image of the other. Intimacy cherishes the soul of the other. When you overcome lust, you don't stop desiring. You start desiring with clarity. You begin to see others not as objects, but as reflections. Not as trophies, but as companions. Not as fantasies, but as human beings. And this shift changes everything. Your friendships, your romantic relationships, your role in the world. Because now, you're no longer acting from hunger. You're moving from purpose. This is what mystics have called agape, a love that transcends the physical and touches the eternal. St. Augustine knew this battle intimately. In his Confessions, he laid bare his lifelong struggle with lust. But on his path toward the divine, he realized that real satisfaction doesn't come from sensual gratification, but from anchoring the soul. "You have made us for yourself, O Lord," he wrote, "and our heart is restless until it rests in you." That restlessness, the same one that sends people spiraling into lust, isn't evil. It's a signal, a deep spiritual longing wearing the disguise of temporary cravings. It's your soul asking to come home. Overcoming lust isn't about becoming less human. It's about becoming more fully alive. It's about moving from compulsion to clarity, from craving to communion, from reaction to revelation. And this is the mystery we'll explore next. The final and most powerful transmutation. The ultimate shift, where lust doesn't just become discipline or presence, but transforms into transcendence. We'll speak of desire as a spiritual path. We'll touch on the hidden teachings of sacred sexuality, and we'll unlock the final key that frees the soul from inner chains and opens the gate to true liberation. Because the person who conquers lust doesn't just resist temptation. They dismantle illusion. They dissolve distraction. They overcome the invisible machinery that keeps humanity trapped in suffering. They overcome the world. So, are you ready for the final revelation? What does it truly mean to overcome the world? It's not about rejecting it. It's about no longer being ruled by it. Just walking through its endless illusions without being deceived. It's feeling desire without being possessed by it. Seeing clearly while others remain blinded by appetite. And here is the deepest truth. At its core, lust in its most dangerous form isn't about sex. It's about escape. It's the refusal to sit with what is. And that, more than anything, is what keeps you chained. Because every image you chase, every fantasy, every impulsive fix isn't about the thing itself. It's about avoiding the discomfort of being here, now, with yourself. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it." But lust strips away that attention, pulls you out of the now. It keeps you trapped in the endless cycle of not yet, always seeking, never arriving, always consuming, never fulfilled. So the true battle isn't against desire itself. It's against unconsciousness. And that's why overcoming lust isn't just moral advice. The spiritual freedom to master lust is to reclaim your presence, to feel longing without losing your center, to stand inside temptation and remain whole. Every great spiritual tradition teaches this. From Zen Buddhism to Christian mysticism to Stoic philosophy, the path isn't indulgence, nor is it repression. It's awareness, and awareness transforms everything. When you become aware of your desires, you gain the power to question them. What am I really hungry for? What inner wound am I trying to soothe? What truth am I avoiding? And in this honest inquiry, something beautiful happens. You realize your desires aren't your enemies. They're your teachers. They reveal where you're divided, what you're afraid of, what parts of yourself still need love. And that is the key, because the final stage of this journey, the highest form of transmutation, is love. Not the love of possession, not the love of attachment, but a love that holds every part of you, even the messy parts, even the ashamed parts, even the addicted parts, with compassion, especially those, because healing doesn't grow from shame. It grows from clear seeing, from tenderness, from the decision to stay present, to sit with your discomfort, to sit with your emptiness, to sit with your humanity. And from that radical presence, something shifts. Lust begins to dissolve, not because you fought it, but because you outgrew it. Like a child setting aside a toy they've outgrown. You realize it was never the thrill you wanted. You wanted to feel alive. You wanted to feel whole. You wanted to feel love. And now, you're no longer searching for it in images or illusions. You find it in the stillness between breaths, in the softness of your heart. When you stop running, this is the ultimate overcoming, because the world, with all its distractions, seductions, false promises, no longer has power over you. You're no longer chasing ghosts. You're no longer craving things that break you. You're no longer trying to escape yourself. You're here, present, steady. And that grounded presence, that unshakable awareness, is what every spiritual teacher points to when they speak of enlightenment. It's not some distant mountaintop. It's the return to your original self, whole, untouched, uncorrupted. This is what the poet Rumi meant when he wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." Lust resists life. It grasps, clings, demands. But love allows. Love receives. Love stays. And when you live from that space, from truth, from purpose, from clarity, you begin to carry a new frequency, one that lifts others, one that radiates calm, one that walks into chaos and brings peace. This is what the world needs most right now. Not more people chasing thrills, but more people anchored in presence. Not more noise, but more stillness. So, ask yourself now, what kind of life do I truly want to live? One ruled by endless craving, or one ruled by meaning? A life of restless hunger, or one of quiet, grounded joy? A life spent running, or a life spent arriving? Because that choice is yours. In every single moment, you can choose to escape, or you can choose to evolve. And when you choose evolution, over and over again, you won't just change your habits. You'll change your destiny. You'll begin to walk a rare path, the path of integrity, discipline, and true power. And in doing so, you won't become less human. You'll become fully alive. Let this be the start of your awakening. Let these words echo inside you long after this video ends. Let this not just be something you watched. Let it be something you lived. Because the person who overcomes lust doesn't become empty. They become free. And in that freedom, they overcome the world. So, if this message stirred something inside you, pause, reflect, share your thoughts below. What part of this journey spoke loudest to your heart? What habit are you finally ready to release? What truth are you ready to embody? Let's walk this path together. Your evolution starts now.